Welcome, welcome. This is the first time we're doing book tastings. It's with me, Jennifer, hi, and with my coworker Karen, who is on the screen up in the corner right there. That's Karen.
Hi, everybody.
So we're going to be going through a couple books that we really enjoyed reading from 2022, this past year, kind of like what we recommend for the best of the year. And then we're going to go into books that are coming out this year in 2023. Based on what we've enjoyed reading in the past. Okay, so we've got some books in the corner, so some stuff that we are going to be talking about might be back there. Some stuff you're going to have to put on hold because it's either not even out yet or it's really, really popular. Okay, great. All right, so with that being said, anything you want to add, Karen, before we get into it?
Yeah, I just want to say, first of all, hello. I can see you guys, which is pretty cool, as Jen was talking about the new technology we have. I think it's the first time we've really used it with a program. So we're excited about that. I am home because I've been sick. Otherwise, I would be there with Jen. And I want to just give her a shout out for setting up and getting the food and everything, because I was not there to help her. So anyway, with that being said, I'm ready when you are, Jen.
Okay, so Karen, I'm going to be looking at the PowerPoint. So if you see anyone in the waiting room, could you let them in?
I will.
I won't be able to see it on my side.
I will.
Thank you. Okay, and off we go. Okay.
Okay, as Jen said, we're going to talk about a few of our favorite books from 2020, and then we will get into the most anticipated for this year. So I'm going to start with The Winners by Frederick Bachman. I love him. He's one of my favorite authors. He's a best-selling author. You might know him as the author of A Man Called Ove, Anxious People, and the Beartown series. So The Winners is the third book in the Beartown series, and I found it to be just as engrossing as the first two. The first one is Beartown, the second one is Us Against Them. It's important to note that the books should be read in order, as the story follows the same characters in chronological order. So the premise for the series is set in a Swedish hockey community called Beartown, a town that is known for its youth hockey, and the town is very obsessed with winning. A tragedy occurs in this small town, and the fallout from it creates a division in this tight-knit community. I think the novels just beautifully capture all the complexities of daily life and explore questions of friendship, loyalty, loss, identity. And actually the first book, Beartown, is now an HBO series. So if you have not read Beartown, I would highly recommend it.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Karen, if you can take a look at the chat, because I'm stuck on the screen, so.
Hold on one second.
There you go. Okay. Go away. Okay. So this is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. If anyone has read The Guest List, I love that book. This is her latest one that came out in February. So it's I would call it kind of like one of the best mystery thriller novels of the year. She's a New York Times bestseller author. We have a new locked room mystery set in a Paris apartment, that's what the title, a building in which every resident has something to hide. I love The Guest List, so I knew I had to read The Paris Apartment, and I'm really glad I did. So just a quick summary, Jess is our main character. Jess needs a fresh start. She's broke, she's alone, and she just left her job under less than ideal circumstances. Her half-brother Ben didn't sound too thrilled when she asked if she could stay with him, but he didn't really say no, so she just figured she'd show up. And of course, everything should look better from Paris. But it's only when she does show up to a very nice apartment that he certainly could not afford. He's not there to greet her. She can't find him. He's disappeared. The longer Ben stays missing, the more Jess starts to dig into her brother's situation and the more questions she has. Ben's neighbors are a very eclectic bunch and not very particularly friendly in a French way. Jess may have come to Paris to escape her past, what she's going through right now, but it's really starting to seem like Ben's future is the one in question. And the neighbors aren't talking and they're not helping. So why you should read it. It's a very riveting, very entertaining suspense novel. The air mystery about Ben and the apartment itself is very sinister. You know, the apartment kind of has its own character. It's just, you know, this big building, lots of people, lots of secrets hidden in this building. Very short, snappy chapters, very easy to just say one more and just keep reading and you'll be engrossed for sure. It's mostly narrated by Jess, our main character, but all the residents do have their say, and you get a general picture of who Ben is and what he's done, maybe to lead to his disappearance, not to point any fingers. So even when some of the secrets of the building have become apparent, the ending isn't unexpected and has a lot of twists. You will not expect it. I did not, and it was just a really good ending, very satisfying. So yeah, Paris Apartment. 2 thumbs up. All right.
Okay, so my next choice is Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult and Jennifer Finney Boylan. So this novel obviously is co-written by Jodi and Jennifer. The story follows the case of 18-year-old Asher Fields, who's charged with the murder of his girlfriend, Lily Campanello. Although initially convinced of his innocence, his mother can't help but being reminded of the similarities between Asher and her abusive ex-husband, Asher's father. So through the story's characters, Mad Honey explores different themes: violence, abuse in relationships, as well as gender expression and identity. It's a riveting novel, a lot of suspense. It also includes an unforgettable love story. So for those of you who are Jodi Picoult fans, this is definitely right up your alley. Jennifer Finney Boylan has written 16 books. She's the author of Good Boy, My Life in 7 Dogs. She is also a well-known LGBTQ activist and an opinion writer for the New York Times. So a little interesting thing, these 2 authors came together to write this book after Boylan had a dream that she co-wrote a book with Jodi Picoult, and she posted it on Twitter. And Picoult saw it and said, hey, yeah, let's do it. And that's how they came to collaborate on this book. And that's Mad Honey.
It's that easy, right?
Yeah.
All right. I hope probably most of you recognize this title, recognize this cover. This is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This is a debut novel from her. It's her first novel, and it certainly has made a splash. You are going to have to put this on hold if you want to read it, because we cannot keep it in stock. So about the book, we have chemist Elizabeth Zott is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth would be the first to say that there is no such thing as an average woman. But it's the early 1960s, and her all-male team of scientists and co-workers at a research institute take a very unscientific view of equality. You know, she really, doesn't fit in with the boys, to say. Except for one, a Calvin Evans. He's lonely, brilliant, Nobel Prize winning grudge holder who falls in love with Elizabeth and her mind, of all things. True chemistry results. It sounds like a great, start of a romance novel. But this is not a romance novel. This is a science one. But like science, life is unpredictable, which is why a few years later, Elizabeth finds herself not only a single mother, but also the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show, Supper at Six. Elizabeth's unusual approach to cooking proves revolutionary, but as her following grows and she gets more women watching her show, not everyone is happy because Elizabeth isn't just teaching women how to cook, she's also daring them to change the status quo. This is described as laugh out loud, funny, shrewdly observant, studded with a lot of great supporting characters. Lessons in Chemistry is as original and vibrant as its protagonist, Elizabeth. I think everyone should try to read this if they could, or at least put it on their list for farther down the road. It's witty, wonderful, must read. It's extremely popular. Wouldn't be surprised me if one day it gets turned into a movie. You're gonna have to put it on hold, like I said, but the wait should be worth it, as it is a novel that fascinates, delights, charms, and engages. And there's a dog, and the dog makes it. Nothing happens to the dog. So read it for the dog at least. There's a dog who stars in the book. He's great. He's cute. Okay. All right. Great.
Okay, The Maid by Nita Prose. I loved this book. So in The Maid, main character, Molly Gray, she's a maid, and she has difficulty navigating social situations, but she takes great pride in her work. She works at the upscale Regency Grand Hotel, and she really takes pride in her neatly tucked bed corners, and she wipes every spot of dirt off and dust from every surface. She is meticulous. Then one day, she finds the dead body of Mr. Black, a wealthy real estate tycoon, in one of the guest rooms. And this sends her life into disarray. She just does not know how to handle it. It reveals the messy, gritty activities going on really beneath their noses at this hotel. Before she knows what's happening, her unusual demeanor has the police targeting her as the lead suspect. I mean, she really quickly finds herself caught in this web of deception, and she has no idea how to untangle it. Fortunately for Molly, friends that she really didn't know she had unite with her in search for clues to what really happened to Mr. Black. But will they be able to find the real killer before it's too late and Molly goes to prison for this crime? For those of you who like cozy murder mysteries, this is definitely for you. It's funny, it's light, it's got twists and turns. It was just a really enjoyable read. And that's The Maid.
All right, let's switch it over to romance. So this is The Book Lovers by Emily Henry. You got really good romance from 2022. Emily Henry is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of People We Meet on Vacation, as well as the forthcoming Happy Place book. So if you're looking for a fun romantic read, Emily has you covered. A quick synopsis of the book. Nora is our main character. Nora's life is books. She's read them all, and she's not that type of heroine. She's not the plucky one. She's not the laid-back dream girl, and she's especially not the sweetheart. In fact, the only people Nora is a hero for is her clients as a cutthroat literary agent and her beloved little sister Libby. Which is why she agrees to go to Sunshine Falls, North Carolina, when Libby begs for a sister's trip away. Libby has visions of a small town transformation for Nora, where she becomes that, girl who walks into the town, falls in love with it, mellows out, chills out. But that doesn't happen. Instead of picnics and meadows or run-ins with the handsome country doctor or that muscular bartender, Nora keeps bumping into Charlie, who is a bookish, brooding editor from back in the city. It would be cute, same work, kind of like that. but it's not, because they've met several times and it's never been cute. But still, they're thrown together again and again in a series of coincidences. And that just will kind of, bring down the barriers of them actually meet each other, know each other, and the carefully crafted stories they think about themselves, come to unravel, and, their true selves really pop out. All right, so why should you read it? So Book Lovers does a lot of things right with subverting the Hallmark movie, kind of classic thing that we all kind of know from Hallmark movies. You have a kind of a cold, bossy protagonist who instead of having to change her ways, is still appreciated for who she is and what she values, especially by the love interest. So that's really nice. The banter is fun. You can see how Nora and Charlie, the love interest, kind of click together. But what kind of gives the book a little bit more depth, a little bit more meat, is you see how Nora's own issues are focused on, as well as her relationship with her sister. So it's kind of like a combination of romance and interpersonal and family struggles, which is good. It gives it a little bit more meat to it. So give it a try if you're looking for a change up for classic Hallmark movies. You want kind of like it, but a little bit more, a little adjacent to. All right.
All right. Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I'm a big fan of this author. So some of you would know the author. She wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which we, by the way, are having a book discussion on that in mid-February. I think it might be February 16th. Jen can confirm that for you. She wrote Daisy Jones and the Sex, and she also wrote Malibu Rising. So Carrie Soto was a smaller character in Malibu Rising, and her story continues in this gripping novel about the excitement of elite sports and the struggles that women athletes face when their ambition and their drive is deemed too much. The novel is set in the world of the tennis elite and follows a ruthless former champion who, after losing her record to a rising star, decides to come out of retirement at age 37 in order to reclaim her title. I love Carrie's fiery, ambitious energy, and she has this really heartwarming relationship with her dad, who is also her coach. I think the book just does an excellent job capturing the double standards that women athletes face. And it offers like an uplifting portrait of a woman who really dares to follow her dreams. So I highly recommend this. If you have not read any Taylor Jenkins Reid, it's really worthwhile. So put it on your list if it sounds interesting to you.
Okay, and the Evelyn Hugo book discussion is Thursday, February 23rd.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so back to me. All right, so this is The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. Maggie is the author, this author is the award-winning author of Hamnet, which is the Shakespearean tale of Hamnet, so Shakespeare's son, his wife, that kind of thing. So she did an excellent job with that book. So we are now in Renaissance Italy, and with the unforgettable fictional portrait of the captivating young Duchess Lucrezia de Medici as she makes her way in a troubled court. So Lucrezia is the third daughter of a Grand Duke. She's very comfortable in her obscure place in the Palazzo. She's the third daughter. She's not a son. She's got two older sisters. She doesn't have to worry about anything. She's free to like wander around, devote herself to her own artistic pursuits. But that all changes when her older sister dies on the eve of her wedding to a duke. And suddenly Lucrezia is thrust into the limelight where the duke wants a wife. She's available, and her father's like, sure, take her. So she's barely left girlhood behind, but Lucrezia must now enter an unfamiliar court whose customs are kind of bizarre, and her arrival is not exactly welcome. And perhaps most mystifying of all is her new husband himself, Alfonso. Is he a playful gentleman to appear to be on their wedding, or is he a ruthless politician that everyone fears? So she's definitely juggling this strange guy she's never met before. So as Lucrezia sits in constricting finery for a painting, hence the title, intending to preserve her image for centuries to come, one thing becomes clear. In the court's eye, she has one duty, one purpose only, to provide an heir. Until then, for all her rank and nobility, the new Duchess's future hangs entirely in the balance. So why should we read it? This is full of the same beauty and emotion as seen in her Shakespeare story of Hamlet. Maggie O'Farrell turns her talents to Renaissance Italy in an extraordinary portrait of a resilient young woman's battle for her very future. This is actually based on a real person. Lucrezia de Medici was a real person, and so Maggie O'Farrell takes as much as we know about her and constructs a story around that narrative. So yeah, definitely a good read. All right.
Okay. So I'm going to just mix this up a little bit. I will start by talking about Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. So I am going to guess that most of you are familiar with Colleen Hoover. Her books are wildly popular right now. As a matter of fact, if you were to go to our shelf, we probably don't have anything on the shelf. And that is kind of just sort of a state of affairs with most libraries because the books are being checked out so often. Anyway, to talk about Reminders of Him. So the story centers around 26-year-old Kina Rowan, who, after serving 5 years in prison for a tragic mistake, returns to the town where it all went wrong, hoping to reunite with her 4-year-old daughter, who was actually being raised by somebody else in town. But the bridges that Kina burned are really proving tough to rebuild. So this is an emotional tale. It's about loss and hope and grief and forgiveness, and mostly about how the power of love can heal. So that's Reminders of Him. It Starts With Us is the next book up here. It is a sequel to It Ends With Us. You would think that the titles would be reversed, but they're not. So in order for me to talk about It Starts With Us, I'm going to start with It Ends With Us. So this is the first book in the series. It Starts With Us is a long-awaited sequel to this first novel. It Ends With Us follows the story of Lily Bloom. She's a young entrepreneur who moves to Boston and opens a successful flower shop. Enters Ryle Kincaid, a young, successful neurosurgeon that Lily falls hard for. At first, their relationship really seems ideal, but Lily soon learns that Ryle has a dark side. Lily turns to her childhood friend, Atlas Corrigan, for advice. And Atlas has been a witness years earlier to abuse that actually occurred in Lily's childhood home. And so he lends this sympathetic ear. So Lily is recognizing that her life has begun to follow in her mother's footsteps and struggles to really break this cycle of abuse. This novel is bold. It's deeply personal in that it contains autobiographical notes from the author. It really is a heart-wrenching story and a tale of love that can come at the ultimate price. So that's It Ends With Us. So now I'll talk about It Starts With Us. Again, very anticipated sequel, begins right where the epilogue of It Ends With Us left off. The story is told from alternating perspectives perspectives of its two main characters, Atlas Corrigan and Lily Bloom. Lily is dealing with her chaotic life as a floral shop owner, single mom, and co-parent with her ex-husband Ryle, who really can't seem to grasp the fact that they're never going to get back together again. So returning readers are going to be thrilled to finally get to know more about Atlas's story and his past. So if you are a fan of Lily and Atlas's relationship in the first book, if you've read it, you're really going to want to take a look at this second chance love story. If you are going to read this, please be sure that you read It Ends With Us first before It Starts With Us. I know that all sounds kind of confusing. So if you have any questions, just let me know or let Jen know.
Just to make it confusing. Okay, cool. All right, so this is the last one for 2022 books, and then we'll get going with the 23. So this is Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. So she is a New York Times bestselling author of Her Rose Code, and she returns with an unforgettable World War II tale. She loves that era, of a quiet bookworm who becomes history's deadliest female sniper. And it is based on a true story, which is always nice. About the book, it's 1937. We're in the snowbound city of Kyiv, Ukraine. And wry and bookish history student Mila organizes her life around her library job and her young son. But Hitler's invasion of Ukraine and Russia sends her on an entirely different path. She's given a rifle and sent to join the fight. Mila must forge herself from studious girl to deadly sniper, a lethal hunter of Nazis known as Lady Death. But when news of her 300th kill makes her a national heroine, Mila finds herself torn from the bloody battlefields of the Eastern Front and sent to America for a goodwill tour. Still reeling from the war wounds and devastated by loss, Mila finds herself isolated and lonely in the glittering world of Washington, D.C., until she has an unexpected friendship with First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, and an even more unexpected connection with a fellow silent sniper who offers the possibility of happiness. Of course, you've always got conflict, so you have an old enemy from her past joins forces with a deadly new foe. Lady Death finds herself battling her own demons and enemy bullets in the deadliest duel of her life. Why you should read it? I would call it one of the best historical fiction books of 2022, and it's based on a true story. It's a haunting novel of heroism born of desperation. You got a mother who is forced to become a soldier, of a woman who found her place in the world and just kind of changed the course of history. Really impact on history as well. For fans of the Rose Code, obviously, and also Codename Helene, will not be disappointed in The Diamond Eye. All right. I'm just gonna move Jen's head. All right.
Move my head, Jen.
Yeah, I will. So coming soon to library near you, we're now gonna go into 2023. It's not gonna be like a whole spiel of a book talk because we haven't read the books because they're all new or not even out yet. So instead we're kind of plug about why we think we should read it. All right. Let's move. There we go.
Okay, as Jen said, because these books are new books, we have not read most of them. So these will be more short, quick, little things. We looked at another number of different, lists and did some research on, what the most anticipated books were. So anyway, I'm going to start by Spare by Prince Harry. This was released earlier this month and, as expected, has generated lots of interest because aren't we all obsessed with Harry and Meghan? So for the first time, Prince Harry tells his own story in print. I do believe this is #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It's certainly on my list.
Put it on hold. We have several copies, but you're going to be waiting.
And I'm reading it now.
Who you are. Okay. There we go. Let's put it on this. Okay. All right. So here we have Codename Sapphire by Pan Jenoff. Comes out in February. It's historical fiction. The word code is in the title, so all my boxes are checked. Sign me up. In this novel, we have a woman who must rescue her cousin's family from a train bound for Auschwitz in this riveting tale of bravery and resistance. Pam Jenoff is the best-selling author of The Lost Girls of Paris. So if you remember that book, this is her next one. Based on that book and just the general description, it sounds like it'll be a really good one.
Okay, I believe this was mentioned a little bit earlier, The Mitford Affair by Marie Benedict. This is out. I think it came out on January 17th. Author of the best-selling novel, The Personal Librarian, returns to us with a historical fiction thriller that is unputdownable. This novel illuminates the hold fascism can have on individuals and is a story of sisterhood, of loyalty, and patriotism during the 1930s.
Oh, great. All right. Next is the London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. This one is coming out in March. This one looks pretty great. The author, Sarah Penner, finds the sweet spot of historical mystery with a tale of Victorian spiritualism. We've got Parisian alleyways and murder most foul. So famous spiritualist Maudlin can conjure the spirits of murdered victims, allegedly. But can she help desperate Lena find her sister's killer? So there's our murder mystery. It seems like it's going to be good, clean, occult fun from the same author of The Lost Apothecary that came out a couple years ago, I believe. So if you read that one, you enjoyed it, got the same thing here too. Should be good.
Okay, another one of my favorite authors. This book is Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes. I believe it comes out at the beginning of next month. You will know her from her books Me Before You and The Giver of Stars, which I loved. This story is about mix-ups, mess-ups, and second chances. The author's signature humor and her wonderful storytelling are present throughout the book, which is a story about how one little thing can change everything.
All right, back to me. All right, so we have Homecoming by Kate Morton coming out in April. So summary is that when the grandmother who raised her ends up in the hospital after a fall, Jess rushes back from London to Sydney to take care of her. But when going through her grandmother's house, she discovers a kind of true crime journal following a notorious murder at a mysterious mansion on Christmas Eve in 1959. So Jess begins to look into the mystery and the surprising connections to her family's history. So it's been over 4 years since Kate Morton released her last book, The Clockmaker's Daughter. So Homecoming is hopefully worth that long wait in between the two. So you remember Clockmaker's Daughter, you enjoyed it, give this one a try as well.
So Happy Place by Emily Henry. We've talked about this author. We love her, both Jen and I love her. This is about a couple who broke up and then made a pact to pretend to still be together for their annual week-long vacation with their best friends. I love this author's humor. She's witty and funny and smart, and I just really love the way she writes. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one.
Oh, don't mind Karen's head. Okay, so this is The Making of Another Major Motion Picture Masterpiece by Tom Hanks. Yes, that Tom Hanks. Coming out in May. So sure, Tom Hanks is the Academy Award winning actor that we all know and love, but he's also trying his hand at being an author now. This is Hank's first novel, ambitiously titled The Making of Another Major Motion Picture Masterpiece, kind of a mouthful, but so it moves from 1947 to present day as it follows the process of transforming a little comic book into a star-studded multi-million-dollar superhero action film. Kind of sounds familiar, what we've seen this last couple of years. So I'm just curious to see how well this actor can craft the story. I hope that no one ghost wrote it for him. I want to believe that he put all the effort into it. But it should be interesting just to see, if he is just as good an author as he is an actor. Okay.
Okay, Small Mercies by Dennis Lehane. This one is coming out, I believe, mid-April. We all know this author from his incredible works like Mystic River, Shutter Island, Gone Baby Gone. So this novel is set against the hot, tumultuous months in 1974 in the city of Boston. And it's when the city's desegregation of its public schools exploded into violence. This book is a superb thriller. It's a brutal depiction of crime, of power, and really an unflinching portrait of American racism. So I have this one on hold.
Okay, so next we have Crook Manifesto by Colson Whitehead, coming out in July. Colson Whitehead is a two-time winner of a Pulitzer Prize, both for The Underground Railroad and The Nickel Boys. You can write a grocery list and we still probably read it. So his 2021 novel, Harlem Shuffle, that's kind of his latest one, was a heist novel and also dedicated plenty of space to appreciating furniture, which is interesting. But we're glad to see the story continues in this sequel of a trilogy. So this is the second one in his trilogy of Harlem Shuffle. And that is Crook Manifesto. Okay.
Prom Mom by Laura Lipman. So the story is about Amber Glass, who has spent her entire adult life putting as much distance as possible between herself and her hometown of Baltimore, where she fears she will forever be known as Prom Mom, the girl who allegedly killed her baby on the night of the prom after her date, Joe Simpson, abandoned her to pursue the girl that he really liked. But when the circumstances bring Amber back to Baltimore, she recognizes that she can have a second chance as long as she stays away from Joe, who's now a successful commercial real estate developer, married to a plastic surgeon to whom he is devoted. Lipman is also the author of the novel Lady in the Lake, and more recently Dream Girl. So that is Prom Mom.
All right. Next, we have The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth, coming out in April. So Sally Hepworth's 2022 thriller, The Younger Wife, was a marvelous combination of complicated character dynamics and soapy thrills a la Big Little Lies. So there's high hopes for her next novel, which takes on the time-honored trope of female-driven suspense novels. What if my perfect, beloved, lovely husband was actually a murderer? So that's all we get for like what the summary is. So we'll have to stay tuned for more.
Okay, The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. This is already out. So those of you who are fans of authors like Lucy Foley and Ruth Ware will enjoy this gothic suspense novel. It's set in an Italian villa with a dark history. This one is another one on my list. It's a long list, and I know I'm going to be waiting a while.
Okay, so speaking of Gothic, here we've got The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox, coming out in April. So if you love Gothic novels, you probably already know and love the deliciously gloomy works of Hester Fox. This is her fifth book, and it takes place after World War I and follows Ivy Radcliffe, a woman who is shocked to learn that she has inherited the crumbling estate in Yorkshire that contains an epically creepy library. It's definitely gonna be a Gothic mystery, and it's gonna be nice and spooky, so I'm good for it.
Okay, we have Colleen Hoover again. Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Tyrene Fisher. So this time she is joining forces with Taryn Fisher, who's a New York Times bestselling author of The Wives. So together they have created a gripping, twisting romance. A must read for anybody who likes romance or likes either one of these authors. Never Never.
All right, next is Hell Bent by Leah Bardugo. Has already come out this January. So this is the follow-up to her smash hit Ninth House that came out a couple years ago. It's a sequel story where we find young Alex Stern tasked with retrieving a soul from beyond the gates of the underworld. Expect sinister artifacts, eldritch tunes, dubious allies, occult rituals, the whole shebang. And a pluckish subversive take on elite higher education. So I really enjoyed the author's young adult series. She's done Shadow and Bone. It's a young adult series. They also made a Netflix series out of it, as well as Six of Crows. So I really enjoyed that. So you know, kind of moving towards her adult stuff, which is, you know, definitely have that same flair and style. So if you kind of like the more supernaturally inclined kind of books, this will be up your alley. Plus, you can start with the first one and then try the second one. Okay.
Okay, One of Us is Back by Karen McManus. This actually is not out until midsummer, but this is the third book in this blockbuster series. First one being One of Us is Lying, and the second one of Us is Next. It is also a Netflix original series. So if you like YA, young adult, this is probably going to be of interest to you. It is a high school-based murder mystery series, and it's packed with cryptic clues and countless plot twists. I have read both of them in the series. I'm a big YA fan, so and have enjoyed them. So I recommend this one as well.
Okay, so I gotta have a nonfiction in there. I gotta have my history books. So here we have The Wager, a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, and murder by David Grann, coming out in April. So in 1740, a British warship, The Wager, disappeared while chasing a treasure-filled Spanish galleon. 2 years later, a patched-together lifeboat washed up on the shores of Brazil with 30 starving survivors. Their story was a sensation until 6 months later, when another batch of survivors washed ashore with a much different story about what actually happened. So this is a nonfiction true story book. So David Grann was the author of Killers of the Flower Moon. And he's so good at this kind of thing and digging, you know, story and, you know, kind of making it not seem like a chore to read through. So it will be on my list for sure.
Okay, we have Ruth Ware, as you guys are familiar with this author. This book, 0 Days, is coming out the beginning of June or mid-June. So the author returns with this edge of your seat thriller that kind of combines a Mr. and Mrs. Smith with The Fugitive. And it's about a woman in a race against time to clear her name and find her husband's murderer. I'm a big Ruth Ware fan, so I certainly will be looking to read this one.
All right, so next we have Love, Theoretically, by Allie Hazelwood, coming out in June. So I have to admit, I'm kind of picky with my romance. I'm, either, take it or leave it sometimes. But I've heard such good things about Allie Hazelwood, and the summary seemed to be really interesting. So we have rival physicists collide in a fusion of academic feuds, fake dating shenanigans, and this delightful STEM rom-com. Allie Hazelwood is a New York Times bestseller author of Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain. So clearly she has a trend with the titles. So yeah, just, if you're looking for another romance, give it a shot. And she has other books to try as well in the meantime.
None of This Is True is by Lisa Jewell, coming out a little bit later in the summer. So if you are a fan of psychological thrillers, this author has brought us yet another gripping tale about a woman who finds herself the subject of her own popular true crime podcast. And nobody is what they seem to be. And as you can see, Jen has put a cover in place of a cover because we don't have a cover yet
Yeah. So it's so far in advance, I don't have a cover yet for it. Okay. So next we have How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix, coming out. It's already out this January. So I got to include at least one real horror novel on the list. So Scary Story Maestro Grady Hendrix. He was the author of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. He broadcasts on a very specific frequency between horror and humor, kind of tips over the line back and forth. It's a very tricky tone to maintain, but he always seems to nail it. His latest book concerns a pair of estranged siblings forced to sell the family home when their parents die. But they walk into the house and why are all the mirrors covered? Why is this attic door nailed shut? Why are there a bunch of scratch marks on this door? So if you're looking for something creepy to read, you can check it out. Yeah, you're in the mood.
Okay, The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is already out. This is the first book in a thrilling new duology. It features a runaway queen, a reluctant prince, and a quest that may destroy them both. Again, if you're a YA fan or a fantasy fan, you should definitely put this on your list.
Okay. All right, here we have just the nicest couple by Mary Kubica. Yeah, sure. It was published earlier this month in January. So Mary is the author of Local Woman Missing, and this is her next novel. Here we have a husband's disappearance links two couples in this twisty thriller from a master of suspense. And Karen, I believe you read this recently, actually.
I did. I actually wanted to mention that I listened to it through Hoopla, so it is available, and I really enjoyed it. It kind of caught my attention when Jen and I were putting this together, and as she said, a lot of twists and turns, and really some surprises. So I really liked it.
Down we go.
Really Good Actually by Monica Hasey. So this is out already. It's a tender yet, I would say, sharp novel that tells the heartbreaking and hilarious tales of a young woman who's going through a divorce. And all I can say about this one in doing a little bit of research is think Bridget Jones' Diary type humor. So I really like Bridget Jones' Diary. I love that humor. I'm definitely going to be reading this one.
All right, back to me. All right, so this is Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld, coming out in April. So known for her clever, keenly observed fictional twists on both classic literature and real American history, Curtis, who was the author of Eligible, American Wife, now turns her pen to a rom-com subgenre with this appropriately titled book. We have Sally, a sketch writer on an SNL-like comedy show, has always made fun of the gloriously hot woman dates a shabby comedian trope. Given that the reverse kind of never happens. But when she hits it off with a gorgeous guest host Noah, Sally finds herself that maybe, just maybe, she'll eat her words and that will come true. So yeah, I included this one because I recently finished American Wife, and I thought it was a very big, dense novel, but it was overall a good one. So I'm interested to see what else she can do. And I believe we're going to be doing a book discussion on Eligible sometime in the future.
Yes, we
So
are.
yeah. So she's has a couple of good stuff out there, and I think this one will be just as good.
This, the book discussion that Jen mentioned is with our evening book discussion group, and we do have pamphlets out where the book discussion books are kept in the library, because I can't remember what month it is.
It's March.
March.
It's March.
Okay, thank you.
No, this is the evening. This is the first Thursday. of the month.
Okay, all is mine that I carry with me by William Landay. So a mother has disappeared and a father is presumed guilty. There's no proof, there are no witnesses. So this book is released in early March and I can't wait. For those of you that have been coming to the library for a while, we did host this author here or there at the library in person a few years back. He was talking about his book, Defending Jacob, and he was fantastic. And I want to put a plug in for Defending Jacob as well. It was a really, really good mystery. So I would recommend it. So I'm excited about this.
All right. Next we have Quietly Hostile essays by Samantha Irby coming out in May. She's humorist, essayist, and TV writer Samantha expands her repertoire of hilarious writings with animal-themed book covers. She seems to like that. So if you're a fan of her other collection, she's done Wow, No Thank You, and We Are Never Meeting in Real Life. You already know that her life is just as crazy as ever. But this is good news for us readers because once the calamities of Irby's life have been processed through her twisted mind, they become something funny, endearing, and endlessly relatable. So if you're looking for humor, this should be a good one.
Okay, this is What Happened to Ruthie Ramirez by Claire Jimenez. That is coming out towards the beginning of March. This novel is a debut novel from this author. It is equally hilarious and haunting. It's about a Puerto Rican family in Staten Island who discovers their long missing sister is potentially alive and actually cast on a reality TV show. And they set out to bring her home. So I thought this sounded interesting. I'm looking forward to this one.
All right. Here we have The Nazi Conspiracy, The Secret Plot to Kill Roosevelt, Stalin, and Churchill by Brad Meltzer and Josh Mensch. It's actually already out this January. So they are the New York Times bestselling authors of The First Conspiracy and the Lincoln Conspiracy. So definitely a trend there with the names. This is a little known true story of a Nazi plot to kill FDR, Joseph Stalin, and Winston Churchill at the height of World War II. So it's a historical nonfiction book. The Nazi conspiracy explores the great political minds of the 20th century, and investigates the pivotal years of war in gripping detail. This meeting of the big three changed the course of World War II, and here's the inside story of how it almost led to a world-shattering disaster. So you got your usual historical nonfiction book.
Okay, The Guest. by Emma Klein, not coming out until the spring. This is the author's second novel about a young woman who is pretending to be someone she isn't. The tone of the book is as careful and controlled as the main character is before she begins to unravel at the seams. This book has also been described as a slow motion car crash of a book, but no matter how bad things get, it's hard to look away.
Oh my God.
Her first novel, Girls, was a beautiful story. It was about a lonely girl in 1969 California who gets swept up in with this like mysterious hippie family and is forced to hide some dark secrets about the family and their activities. I did enjoy that.
All right, here we have a guest at the feast, no more essays by Colin Tobin, coming out, actually already out this January. So I only know Colin from his Brooklyn novel that came out a couple years ago. So I am curious about this collection of essays. He's an engaging and brilliant writer that he's going to be talking about growing up in Ireland during radical change. He talks about cancer, priests, popes, literature. So kind of humor writing, kind of memoir. I'm curious enough to give it a try because Brooklyn was amazing when it came out.
Okay, The Survivalist by Kashana Cauley. This is already out. It is considered a darkly humorous novel from a new literary voice. It's packed with tension, curiosity, and wit, and unafraid to ask the questions most relevant to a new generation of Americans. Does it make sense to climb the corporate ladder? What exactly are the politics of gun ownership? And in a world where it's nearly impossible for young people to earn enough money to afford stable housing, what does it take in order to survive? She is a former staff writer for The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. So this sounds really interesting.
Okay, so this is Learn by Heart by Emma Donahue, coming out in August. All right, remember the novel Room from like a decade ago that shocked us all? We all lost our heads over about Room. So here comes a heartbreakingly gorgeous novel from the same best-selling author of Room and The Wonder. So it's based on the true story of two girls who fall secretly, deeply, and dangerously in love in boarding school in the 19th century York. So don't really know much more about it, but this will be just as emotionally intense and compelling as Room was.
Sorry, there's a group text going on. You should be getting it too.
We all set? Okay, I'll go ahead. Vintage Contemporaries by Dan Coyce. This book is out. Jen and I had both talked about this author in this book, and we're not real familiar with his works, but it looked like an interesting choice. So this book is set in New York City. It's about being young and becoming less young, exploring friendship, sometimes magical, sometimes messy, parenthood, also sometimes magical and sometimes messy, and how to reconcile youthful ambition and ideals with real life. It is considered a warm and big-hearted coming-of-age story.
All right. So next is Rough Sleepers, Dr. Jim O'Connell's urgent mission to bring healing to homeless people by Tracy Kidder, already out in January. So I have to admit, my only connection here is that the author wrote Mountains Beyond Mountains over 2 decades ago. I had to read it in college, and I just remember it blowing me away. It felt really important and crucial to read and know. So in this nonfiction book, Tracy Kidder shows how one person can make a difference as he tells the story of Dr. O'Connell, a man who invented ways to create a community to care for a city's unhoused population, including those who sleep on the streets, the rough sleepers, as it is. If it's anything like Mountains Beyond Mountains, it will be worth the read. It's really dense, important topic.
I have some questions for you by Rebecca Mookie. This is coming out probably around the 3rd week in February. So this award-winning author brings us a stirring investigation into collective memory and a deep examination of one woman's reckoning with her past. It is a transfixing mystery and a forensic whodunit. Fans of her novel, The Great Believers, should definitely check this one out.
All right, so let's let's finish up with some debut novels. So this is The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell, coming up in March. So a killer is on the loose when someone turns up dead on the set of a hit TV baking competition. In this darkly beguiling debut mystery that is perfect for fans of Lucy Foley, Nita Prose, and Anthony Horowitz. It's soon to be a limited series on Hulu, which is weird because it's not even out yet, but sure. So as a debut novel, and this is Jessa's first novel, it's set up to be a deliciously suspenseful thriller for murder mystery buffs and avid bakers alike. So it's kind of like combination of like The Maid meets Chopped kind of thing. Should keep you guessing to the very last page. Okay.
All right. This is Pineapple Street by Jenny Jackson, coming out in March. As Jen said, this is another debut author novel. It's set in Brooklyn Heights and is a hilarious and insightful story of the indulgent life among New Yorkers' one-percenters. The book is filled with lovable and yet fallible characters and is about the miles of distance between the haves and the have-nots and the insanity of first love, all wrapped up in one delightful package. So it's Jenny Jackson. I really like to read new authors, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
All right, and last but not least, we're going to end with me. So we've got The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz coming out in February. So kind of consider it like the plot meets Please Join Us in the psychological suspense debut novel. It's her first one. We have a young author at an exclusive writer's retreat that descends into a nightmare. Of course it does. You're alone in a place with a bunch of strangers. Of course it's going to end badly. We, as a claustrophobic and propulsive thriller, explores the dark side of friendships and fame. The Writing Retreat is set up to be an addicting debut novel with compelling name count. So yeah, cool cover too. And that's all we got. Hopefully there's something like there.
Very good.
Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your day.